The information you're about to hear is not designed to be medical advice. It is research promoting water-soluble, naturally ionized, angstrom-sized minerals and many other nutrients and their ability to allow the body to heal itself. If you need medical advice, please seek out a medical practitioner. Be blessed. Hi, the subject of this audio clip is going to be on that of asthma. Again, another grievous condition for children and adults alike. And we're going to talk about a couple of different things that we have seen that can cause asthma. And of course, like all the other conditions, there could be several possibilities. But some of the more common, and probably the first one that I like to eliminate, is that of parasites. Now, I don't mean to scare anyone, and certainly to scare the parents here, but it's just a part of life we need to deal with because we do not effectively deal with it. Parasites, and especially the roundworms, they call it the pig and the human roundworm, and they call it that because it likes both of us equally. And if you or your children eat pork frequently, like most of us do, then you very likely have a roundworm infection. Here's what you need to be noted about the roundworm, and here's why it and asthma has a relationship or asthmatic response. Not necessarily asthma, but an asthmatic type response. The roundworm has a migratory route in the body. Now, again, I don't want to be too graphic here, but you need to understand what literally is happening inside the body. When the roundworm moves into position in the small intestines, and it starts laying eggs, a single roundworm can produce 200,000 eggs a day. They don't want to move to certain parts of the body. They're lost when they're in your colon, and they can do some grievous things there, which we'll talk about on other tapes. But the migratory route that the roundworm wants to perform is that of growing into one larvae stage in the small intestines, and then boring through the small intestines into the bloodstream, and then migrating from the bloodstream up to the lungs, where they will hold up in the capillaries of the lungs until they grow a couple of more larvae stages. Then they will literally bore out of the lungs and enter the alveolar air sacs. Now, I talked about one roundworm having 200,000 eggs a day. If you could imagine many roundworms, then you're having several 100,000 baby roundworms a day entering the alveolar air sacs of the lungs. I hope you can imagine that would and could give you quite an asthmatic response. And of course, the response they want you to have is that of coughing and putting some pressure on your lungs to force the mucus out. And of course, they don't really want you to spit that out because that's going to break the life cycle. What they want you to do, I'm talking about the parasites, is to swallow. And then, of course, upon swallowing, the young larvae re-enter into the intestinal area and take up the home front along with mama and start producing more parasites. So do not overestimate the parasite infection of particularly the roundworm when it comes to asthma and asthmatic response. And of course, here's where we would recommend a complete body cleanse, and at least the parasite part of it for the children. And of course, this would be on top of the nutrition that they need. And then back it up with a viral and bacterial cleanse. Now, that's not necessarily the only thing that you're going to see that can cause asthma. When it comes to children and asthma, that could be a possibility. But we've also, through a lot of research, found another strong possibility, being that of a very low stomach acid condition, especially in children, low stomach acid. And, of course, you can correct these conditions over a period of time by taking apple cider vinegar, raw apple cider vinegar, in some moderation, whatever you can get in your child, a teaspoon, tablespoon, 2 tablespoons a day if you can, or maybe even taking some nutritional supplements of pepsin, which is a stomach acid supplement to help increase that stomach acid in that child. You want to get their pH up as quickly as possible, which means you want to get rid of the white flour and the white sugar and the white rice and the white pasta type products. But you also want to add to their diet regimen, and fairly aggressively, At the same time, they got low stomach acid if you'll add some good regimens of vitamin B12. Now I'm talking about at least 1,000 extra micrograms a day, in some cases 2,000 extra micrograms a day, or even 3,000 extra micrograms a day. Based on the condition, that's a lot of extra vitamin B12. There'll be no harmful effects from that other than your child will get very, very active and maybe even hyperactive. So that's sort of what you need to watch for when you're giving them extra vitamin B12. Also, I recommend with the B12 a whole lot of extra vitamin B6. 100 milligrams, according on the size of the child or the adult. 100 milligrams a day for a child, 100 milligrams 3 times a day with an adult, with some extra doses of magnesium. I'm talking about for a child at least an extra ounce a day if they have asthma. For an adult, an extra 3 ounces a day if they have asthma. Our magnesium has a very relaxing effect on the bronchial tubes, which will allow them to open up. It dilates the arteries, giving blood flow. So for the upper respiratory, it's a very powerful nutrient. I also recommend a little bit of extra selenium, about a teaspoon extra a day of the selenium for rebuilding that upper respiratory area that may have been scarred. And also some zinc, an extra ounce a day of zinc, and some good intakes of vitamin A, and at least 10,000 IUs a day of vitamin A, preferably from fish liver oil, because that's your greater form of vitamin A. And if you're diabetic, you cannot process beta carotene into vitamin A, so I recommend it in the fish liver form. A lot of times, if the asthmatic condition has been there for a while, the lungs have built up scar tissue, and you need to work on removing that scar tissue. And of course, all your upper respiratory nutrients that I've talked about, the zinc, the vitamin A, the selenium, adding some extra vitamin E would be very helpful. To a small person, 1 to 400 IUs a day. To a larger person, 8 to 1,200 IUs a day of vitamin E can also increase the oxygen level in those lungs to give some relief on the asthmatic response also. Now keep in mind that everything I've talked about so far is over and above the complete body balance kit with all the minerals and vitamins and amino acids and other nutrients that make up that kit and make it so profound. In addition to all that we've talked about, I want to spend just a minute on another cause, and that is of dehydration of the body at a cellular level. Dehydration of the lungs at a cellular level will cause the lungs to want to purge. And of course, what they're trying to do in that effort is to squeeze water out to moisturize the cells and the air sacs and all in that area. So dehydration at a cellular level is a dramatic part, and drinking the right amount of waters along with the nutrition is going to play a big role in overcoming that dehydration. So let's recap for just a moment of all the things that we talked about here, so you don't have to listen to the clip again to think about the things that you may want to purchase. And of course, we talked about the complete body cleansing kit in the beginning. We talked about the different vitamins, vitamin B12, vitamin B6. We talked about extra magnesium to relax those bronchial tubes, relax the lungs, increase the blood flow there for healing. We talked about extra selenium for removing some of the toxins from that area. And of course, selenium also works with vitamin E, which we talked about, to build the oxygen in that area. We talked about extra zinc and extra vitamin A. The zinc, the vitamin A, selenium, vitamin E, all of these help work to remove scar tissue from that area. So these are some of the things that we talked about in a recap that would be very, very helpful whenever it comes to help to allow the body to correct itself from the damage done from asthma or from asthmatic response. And of course, all this would be on top of our complete body balanced kit of nutrition, which would allow the hydration of those lungs at a cellular level, drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water every day, remembering that it takes about 90 days to get hydrated. All these combination effects will do a wondrous thing when it's helping the body to rid itself of such a terrible disorder like asthma. Guys, that's the end of this audio clip. I thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you on another. Until then, be blessed.